Omar, how are you?
Hey, doing great. Super excited that 12.4.2 rolled out last night, and hopefully that means it's going to go out to many more users this week.
Yeah. About Tesla, how is the rollout going?
Well, it's not rollout yet. I think it's just pretty much the same people who had the previous, that 4.1 version. But that's a good sign. So hopefully in the next, maybe later today or later this week, the rollout will start expanding. Can't wait.
What's the kind of norm based on other previous rollouts? What would you expect?
Well, it all depends on what issues they will be seeing. So there is no norm here. So it's just, if there are no issues, they can start pushing it out very quickly. So maybe even later today or tomorrow. If they do find some new issues or something is a concern, then they may take a pause. So I don't think they have specific, deadline or something to roll it out. They will just go as it goes. They want to do it as soon as possible, but they want to keep it safe. It's a
Yeah.
big thing. They don't want to have problems.
Yeah. Omar, do you have it?
Have the FSD update?
Yeah, the dot two.
Yeah, of course.
How is it looking?
Well, 12.4.1 was already very good, but it was very slow. It was very overly timid, and this resulted in a pretty frustrating driving experience that you could consider a regression in many ways. Like, it was almost always zero intervention if you let it go, but it was difficult to kind of let it do its thing because it was so slow. So it's 12.4.2, and I've only tried this at night. I did 3 drives, they were all zero intervention. You could see that it's gotten a lot more of that quickness back, that smoothness back. And Elon mentioned that they were sort of overfitting on interventions a little bit. When you are trying to drive down interventions and you just show it all these sort of tricky scenarios that could result in an intervention, then it starts to become a little too scared because it's seeing all these interventions. It's like traumatized a little bit. So then you got to show it some more normal driving. And that seems to have kind of gotten its personality more centered where we want it.
Uzi, how's it going? Uzi Obi, are you there?
Oh, hello. I'm in Italy.
You're dialing in from Italy today, huh? Okay. I
7
see we
p.m.
have,
I couldn't miss it.
yeah. So we have San Francisco represented. Omar, are you in San Francisco, LA?
I'm in San Francisco right now.
Okay, cool. We have Italy. We have in YouTube live chat Chicago. Let me know in the replies where you're listening from. I like seeing those. Omar, what do you make of today's price action? Up 7%. Rivian also up quite a bit.
Well, I try not to get too excited or disappointed about price action either way. So, this could reverse tomorrow or it could shoot the other direction. It's great to see Tesla over 200. It's been several months. So the production and delivery is really going to be kind of, I think, the big thing. A lot of market participants, I think, are worried that this could be a uh, a situation where things deteriorate further. But often I've noticed that the stock price action before the production and delivery reports tends to pretty closely predict what the production and deliveries are actually going to be. So we know that hedge funds, for example, have pretty solid channel checks. They have the ability to do things like look at registration data look at email receipt data from people who've ordered Teslas or taken delivery of Teslas or stuff like that. There's all kinds of ways that this information kind of leaks out. So I think you often see kind of hedge funds trading in advance based on whether they think the number is going to be a beat or not. Of course, that doesn't necessarily mean that's going to happen, but I have noticed it happening the past several quarters.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Any questions, comments for Omar? He has 12.4.2. Omar, I've seen some different things on lane change improvements. How is it doing for you?
Lane change improvements? I
Yeah,
mean,
because apparently the 12.4.1 used to do some unnecessary lane changing. Has that improved for you quite a bit, or did you?
I mean, even 12.4.1, it doesn't change lanes a lot. It kind of just stays in the same place. So I'd say lane selections majorly improved. The biggest issue with 12.3.6 with the lanes is just when it was changing lanes and it would change lanes and go back and then finish changing lanes. Again, I think this is sort of an example where they train too much on interventions. That is to say, they showed it too many examples where it started changing lanes and then needed to change back. And they really needed to show it that most of the time it's fine, right? Most of the time you're not going to have that car pop up. So that issue is gone with 12.4, which I think a lot of people will be happy about. You don't see a lot of changing lanes and going back, then finishing the lane change.
Okay, thank you. And thanks everyone for letting me know where you're listening from in the replies. We have Alaska, Utah, Poland, Copenhagen, Seattle, Germany, New York City, Baltimore, Maryland, Greece. This is really awesome. All right. So tomorrow morning, we have the production deliveries numbers. Are you making any changes to your position or anyone else in the listening mode? Welcome to request to speak. Any changes before any hedging? Because the stock has run up quite a bit since mid-April, I think, right? 50%. That's a major move in a matter of just 2 months. What do you think, Omar?
I mean, I think it's pretty undervalued when you look at the rest of the AI theme. I think this stock is probably going to add a few $1 trillion to its market cap over the next several years. I mean, this is really a long-term trend. They've got a incredibly disruptive product here. I mean, you can get a Tesla, you get 1 month free of FSD, you tell it where you want to go, you push the button, it just takes you there hands-free. Almost always with zero intervention. Soon to be always with zero intervention. So, I mean, it's kind of obvious that um, I think this company is a multi-trillion-dollar company, and I'm willing to be patient for the long term. My strategy is just to continue accumulating shares. So I haven't been accumulating any shares recently because the stock has been going up. My strategy is just that when there's a sharp dip in the stock, buy at those moments. So anytime it dives, because I've noticed it has a tendency to oversell based on, people letting their imagination run wild, FUD, shorts going crazy. And I've noticed a pattern where after a large drop, and of course you have to be careful that you don't, you know, think it dipped too early, but it's just getting started. But you can kind of sort of dollar cost average in. And I've noticed that after it tends to have those big drops, it tends to bounce up pretty quickly to another level. So the last level that I started accumulating at was 157.58. I bought my last sort of set of shares, And then it jumped up to, I think, 170 very quickly, and it was kind of hanging out in the 170 to 180 range for several months. But now it's over 200 just a few months later, and I think that's a pretty good return. So I think this is a strategy that served me well over the years. I also have some options, some call options to buy more shares of Tesla and increase the size of my position further. I have a $180 call option on Tesla, 5 contracts, so that's 500 shares that I could buy with a expiration of January 16th, 2026. And these call options are up 40% since I bought them. So, yeah, I think I'll probably continue buying shares, maybe buy some more options if the opportunity presents itself. But yeah, it's just kind of funny to watch the bears get upset. Their sort of view of the world is, I mean, just it's just over the top. The negativity around Tesla, around Elon, most of it, which is just completely irrational, just politics or whatever. And a lot of what they're doing has been overlooked. Nobody wants to say anything good about what they're doing. They only want to make everything sound horrible. And it's resulted in a distortion where we now have the opportunity, we had the opportunity to actually buy shares at a lower price than the S&P 500 inclusion price, which is just crazy, right? And you remember everyone just fighting over themselves to buy shares at that moment, and to think that, wow, we actually had an opportunity to get in at those levels again. Um, yeah, I mean, I think this is probably headed to 300 within the next 12 months or more.
Nice. Yoda, what do you think about that price target that Omar just threw out? $300 per share in the next 12 months.
Now we have 3 things we disagree on.
Do you want to throw out your number?
I think no, that was just more of just a joke. No, I think Omar's definitely directionally correct. I think within the next 2 months, it's gonna reach 230. That's my opinion.
Okay, great. So you guys may have noticed over the weekend that I started posing some questions as a way to kind of start the discussion. So each time there's a question, I encourage people to reply to the space, because those questions are going to act as kind of like a survey of topics that people are interested in, what the different views are, and depending on what I read in the replies, I may bring it up here. So, for example, FSD licensing is a topic that a lot of people are interested in, and there seems to be some disagreement on that topic. And the reason why I know that is because I posed a couple of questions on Saturday, and just reading through the replies, I can tell people are divided in 2 different groups. The question was whether FSD could be licensed to other automakers, which everyone agreed on, or pretty much everybody agreed on. And because I don't think we have that many people who believe Tesla should hold on to technology as a walled garden. But the second question was, should Tesla license FSD out to ICE cars? And for that question, people really divided it into 2 very distinct groups. And so I encourage people to reply to those, and also, replying to those tweets brings ad revenue, which is a way to support this space. So that's also another reason why it's important. But let's go back to FSD licensing. Omar, do you think Tesla should license FSD out to automakers, even for ICE cars?
Yes, I do. I think they should license it to any car. And the Rationale is twofold. One, there's a moral argument. You can't let someone die just because they're driving a gas car, even though it might help move people to EV a little bit faster. And two, the economics of EV will drive people to EV even faster with autonomy, right? You're talking about your average car increasing its annual mileage by 5x to 10x. This accentuates the cost difference of EV by 5x to 10x. That 5,000 a year in gas savings and maintenance savings, that now becomes 50,000 a year in gas savings and maintenance savings. So who is going to pay 50,000 a year extra unless they really want to? I mean, just the nature of hooking people onto autonomous, they'll naturally gravitate towards an electric option because it's lower cost and they don't have to worry about charging or anything like that. So I think economics will do the job. You can offer it to any car, offer it to hybrids, offer it to gas, offer it to EV. Hell, if a hydrogen car wants to put it on, that's not really our problem what the propulsion system is. I think the propulsion system will win on its own. But this is really something that I think should be licensed to any car for the moral reason and also for the business reason. The software that's the best is the software that will have the most users, the most data coming in. Let's not leave any territory for our enemies to set up camp. Let us scorch the earth. Let us collect data from every single car that we can. And that is what will make the software impossible to catch.
Okay, anyone who disagrees with that view, anyone who believes Tesla should not license FSD to ICE cars, please request to speak and share your perspective. Danny?
No, I wanted to say that they should. I think it will actually help to kill gas cars more quickly because they'll be spending more gas for inference. And then they'll be like, oh my God, the gas is too expensive. I'll switch to an actual EV now.
Okay. Well, let's see. Alexander?
Yeah, hello guys. I don't think it's a good idea. We should not give an advantage to ICE cars. It's time to go over to EV, I think.
So what do you say to Omar's argument that about the moral argument that ICE lives matter too?
Yeah, well, ICE cars, like the emission kills people, so that's the same thing.
Oh, that's a good point, Omar. Alexander says, if you make these ICE cars 5x, 10x more productive or more useful, the emissions will kill people too. What do you say to that?
Well, I think that people are moving to EVs very rapidly. Autonomy being out and being something that everybody's used to having, that's going to move people to EVs very quickly. Economics will dictate it. So it's kind of like a Trojan horse in a way. You are giving them this technology, which, let's say that your kid is crossing the street and there's an ICE car driver on their phone. Would you want your kid to get run over because, well, they're driving an ICE car? Shame on them. I was talking to an Uber driver. He was dropping me off at the airport the other day, and I said, hey, you should get a Tesla. And he said, I drove a Polestar. It was a nightmare for me having to go to Electrify America and figure out how to charge. I got this hybrid, right? It works for me as an Uber driver. He said, maybe I'll try Tesla next time. They seem to be like 10% of the cars on the road. But, let's say somebody buys an ICE car or hybrid for whatever reason. Do you want your kid to get run over because they happen to choose it for whatever reason? Maybe they have a good reason, right? Maybe they have a use case that legitimately needs it. Maybe they were just mistaken, but for whatever reason they bought it. I think you want that technology to be there. And just the nature of the fact that the car is running all the time is going to push them to actually move to electric faster. Whereas if they were just using their car like normal, let's say it was a few more years until they got an autonomous system, then their gas costs would still be under control. They wouldn't really make that switch to EV as quickly. In other words, what I'm trying to say is autonomy gives you a big reason to move to EV, which is saving a ton of money.
Yoda.
Omar, if you can help us maybe see how you see the best automaker that would license FSD, and would you bar Chinese EV makers out of the gate, or does it matter?
No, Chinese EV makers, especially, they're even more likely to license it than the American automakers. And they actually know how to do it within a reasonable time frame. I'll be right back. Continue the discussion without me.
Sure. Ipatio.
Oh no, this was practically a question directly for Omar, but I can pose it anyway. Maybe we
I'm
can
still
make
here.
it
I'll take
later.
it. What's the
Okay,
question?
great. Well, about what you said before about thinking that autonomy should be expanded to ICE cars, so Tesla should license it. I'm wondering if, because of the very different way that ICE cars work, let's not go into detail here, but there are differences, obviously. I'm wondering if this will, well, require respective adjustments and additions to the autonomy code, and if that could maybe make the code more complex unnecessarily and will slow down development.
Not really. So, the output of the FSD system is how do the pedals move? How do the wheels move? Obviously, there's a little bit of a difference with regen and stuff, but that's kind of like a control layer that goes on top that takes the output and translates it to the car. I think what everybody just needs to sort of internalize is there isn't going to be any car that can't drive itself. It's not going to exist. It's like saying, go to Best Buy and say, "Hey, can I buy a black and white cathode ray tube TV, not a flat panel?" They'll say, "We don't have any." Right? That's what it's going to be like trying to go in and buy a car that doesn't have self-driving, even a gas car. So if Tesla doesn't do it, someone's going to do it. The world isn't just going to say, "Hey, okay, we're never going to, make this available for certain type of cars." It is inevitable. Every car is going to have it. So we've got a system. We've got the best system. I think we should sell it to them.
Okay, but let me push back exactly on that point, because you said someone will do it. Well, the question was specifically is if Tesla should include ICE cars and make it available to ICE cars. And more specifically,
to the extent that it's legal, they should do it. And by the way, California already has a law that it's illegal to have a self-driving gas car in this state. Any self-driving car must be an EV. So I think that's kind of the way to do it from a regulatory perspective.
Wow, I did not know that. Now we know. Thank you, Omar.
I was going to say that I don't think the economics is there for the platform just from the basis of the electrical systems on a gas car. It just doesn't make sense. The redundancies, the dual motors on the steering, the brakes, all those things, it just doesn't make a lot of sense economically to put those systems into a non-gas car. Maybe in the short term, but it just not at scale. It doesn't seem like it.
Yeah, and I created a poll on YouTube live chat. Should Tesla license FSD to ICE cars? You can vote in YouTube live chat if you're watching this there. Eric.
I think that it's a terrible idea to license FSD to gas car. It's the one advantage that Tesla has over the competition. But if they do, it should be only to EVs, regardless if it's a legacy or a new EV maker. And it should be given to companies with regulation. Think about like when McDonald's leased their land to third parties and they have to respect certain standard of quality for the restaurant. Well, that should be the same thing. You should have an expected look and feel when you use FSD, so that cars come with certain camera sets, certain software set, so it doesn't vary too much from one model to the other. Just like an ACS is a new standard, right? Because if it's just given as is like that to the competition, it's going to be a shit show. Sorry. That's all I have to say.
Okay, Alexander.
Yeah, I will go on a limb here and say that Tesla will not give it to ICE cars, and it should not give it to ICE cars. It would be a disgrace, and they know that.
Yoda.
I think assuming that an automaker is going to license FSD, if something happens with an accident that's, let's say, moves down the average accident well on FSD, I think it will create negative sentiment, and the media will obviously blur that with Tesla FSD technology is not good, and so on. So I think there is an element of risk that might be underestimated.
About Tesla.
I understand the point that Omar was saying, was trying to make that eventually all cars will be autonomous, and it's just a matter of time. And if Tesla's technology is going to be the best, that's probably the one that will end up in all the cars. However, on the other hand, I see this more like not a decision of whether to do it at all or not to do it at all, but more a question of priorities. What is the priority for Tesla, where it should start first, and then what would be the last? Licensing FSD is not going to be like, signing a license agreement and we're done. It's going to be a long, it will be a partnership. It will be a multi-year effort between the car manufacturer and Tesla to make it work, to make it certified, to make sure that everything works. And it's probably more difficult to do it with gas cars anyway, because the dynamics is different, the control functions are different from the electric cars. So it's not going to be
Yeah, I mean, that's a
plug
really
and
good
play.
point. So can you imagine like the amount of time it's taking for Tesla to adjust FSD to hardware for cars or Cybertruck? Can you imagine having to do that engineer work for ICE cars? Yeah.
They can do it for Cybertruck in 1 year. So how can you imagine how long it will take to work with Ford or someone else?
That's not, so I'm curious about Omar's views on that. Omar, it's taking Tesla to adjust whatever they need to do for FSD for the Cybertruck or hardware for cars. Remember how long that took? Can you imagine having to do that work for ICE cars, that engineering work? Wouldn't that take years?
No, I mean, you kind of just give them what you have and say, put it on your car. And, you know, you you want to, maybe you have to do some work one time to adjust to, for example, non-regenerative braking or stuff like that. But the car already knows how to drive when regen braking isn't working. So I don't think it'll really be that much work. I mean, you look at Comma, for example, they've got an open source project and they can connect to virtually any car model just with it's all open source. It's on GitHub, so you could probably borrow some of their work. And they seem to have figured out a way to do it. So I don't think it's really rocket science compared to the benefit of saving hundreds of thousands of lives and the amount of work involved. It's not nothing, but it's not also something that's going to take years and years. And
Okay.
it can be a lower priority obviously than the EVs. Like obviously I think their own products come first, But as a way to expand the TAM, it definitely pays for itself.
Danny.
Yeah, you don't see my hand up? You don't see my hand up?
Danny, go ahead.
Yeah, about Yoda's point that FSD, if there's an accident, the media will jump on this. I think at that point, because it will likely take a few years for that priority to come in, FSD, it will not be arguable how much safer it is. And I don't think that will be the case. And also, it will make driving much smoother, and this will decrease emissions. So this is quite aligned with Tesla. And it will give a taste of the future for the ICE car people. And then they'll go and buy the new, cheaper EV that Tesla would probably have by then. So I think it's a good idea.
And I'm looking at the poll results on YouTube live chat right now. 53% of people say yes, license FSD to ICE, and 47% says no, don't license. It is a very. I didn't realize that this issue people are so divided, and the only reason I know this is because I polled people over the weekend with my open-ended questions, and I review all the replies that come in, and that's why I know. So those open-ended questions will continue. I recommend people reply to them. This is also a way to support the space because it brings ad revenue to the account. Alexander.
If they license FSD, even if it's for EBD or for ICE cars, who is reliable if something happens? Is it Tesla or is it the one that licenses it?
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second. Yoda?
Yeah, I was wondering if maybe Omar, you can comment on the difference between Tesla working closely in partnership with, let's say, a Ford to develop FSD versus maybe setting up a platform whereby they open source and provide like SDKs, hardware specs for any automaker to sort of just use the kit.
It would probably have to be a pretty close integration with them working hand in hand together. But again, if you look at Comma's business model, you can just add that to a car without any approval or consent from the automaker at all. You're just sort of jacking in to the motors and controlling the steering wheel and pedal. So I believe that 10 years from now, it will be possible to buy a device from Best Buy the size of a Garmin GPS that can plug into a car and drive it from a simple dash mounted position. And, there's no technical reason why that shouldn't be possible. So I think that's really kind of like what we're trending to is the technology being in a form that it can be added to any car.
I pinned at the top the post that started the discussion. You can read through the 100+ replies to this as well. Interesting. Interesting stuff. Omar Alexander asked a question just a second ago. Who would be liable? Let's say, for example, Ford F-150 ICE got into a crash.
Well, today as an ADAS system, the driver would be liable. Of course, by the time an automaker actually integrated this, we're talking, 3 to 5 years, it would probably be autonomous by then. In that case, Ford would take any liability related to vehicle defects. For example, let's say, the engine caught fire, right? That would be Ford's issue. Now, if the self-driving system made a mistake, then Tesla would have to take liability for that. And they would have insurance that would cover any claims against the self-driving software. And they would roll that into the price.
Alex, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. You?
Good. Where do you stand on the question at the top?
I just joined, so I haven't had time to catch up. Sorry.
That's okay. The question at the top is, to ICE cars specifically.
I don't see why they would want to do it. Like, has that been touched on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Omar has the view that Tesla should do that, and people are divided 50-50 on this. As you can see in the replies at the top, also in the YouTube live chat, it's like literally down the middle. Some people say, I think most people agree that Tesla should license it to other automakers, but
Well,
half the people say they should only license it to EVs. And
No.
Omar's point is that, in summary, one key reason is the more you license out to larger number of fleets, the better it's going to get. And also, ICE lives matter too.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I'm not saying like they shouldn't do it, Tesla. I think, yeah, they should open your licensing. Whoever wants it, you can have it. That's for sure. But I don't think automakers who produce the ICE would want to do it. I don't think it makes sense for them. It's such a huge retrofit on a car that is not, built for it. So, even though they're pulling back on their their EV productions right now, they know that that's the future. So I don't see them, suddenly offering like a Ford Bronco or whatever with FSD, a gas one. I don't see that happening. That was my point. But it's possible to do, and Tesla should not put any restriction on FSD licensing. That goes without saying.
Omar, do you agree with that it would take a lot of work to put on a Bronco?
Well, the alternative is nobody buys your car and you just shut down the whole factory, right? So, like, this is one of those moments where it's sort of manual transmission to automatic transmission. Here in the US, very few people buy manual transmission cars anymore. They don't even know how to drive them. This is a technology shift like that, but even more dramatic. There will be no market for manually driven cars. So you either adapt or you shut down.
Yeah, but my counterpoint to that would be that the ICE lines are going to be shut down anyway. It's like an inevitability. So why would you invest so much right now in that instead of just putting that money into your EV lines and getting that up to scale? You know what I mean?
If they want to shut them down, they can shut them down. If they want to keep them running, they can keep them running. That's not really our business, right? Our business is to accelerate the transition to sustainable energy. So it might seem crazy. Why would we sell this technology to ICE cars? But selling it to everybody without restriction will accelerate the transition to sustainable energy because autonomy will lead us into a sustainable energy future. So, to whatever extent we can make the autonomy as good as possible, as fast as possible, this is actually furthering the goal, even if it's selling to ICE cars. I mean, this sounds kind of counterintuitive. You kind of have to process it for a while because Tesla's been the EV company for so long. But this is bigger than EVs, and it's also an accelerant of EVs.
Okay, we're not in disagreement at all. I agree with everything you say. It should be licensed without restriction. I'm just saying I'm thinking like from the point of view of an OEM that manufactures ICE and EVs, it wouldn't make sense for them, and they can do whatever they want at the end of the day, but I'm saying it wouldn't make much sense for them to invest a whole bunch of capital on their ICE lines that they could invest in making their EV lines better with FSD. That's all I'm saying. And of course it's up to them, and they've made some stupid decisions in the past, so they might made that one stupid, and it's all to, it will always benefit Tesla at the end of the day. The more licensing, the better, and best for the people too, because if they have an ICE car that has FSD and it's 10 times safer than without FSD, it protects their lives too. I'm just saying, like, the business decision of doing it from the OEM standpoint doesn't make much sense. They should be pushing their EVs with licensed FSDs to their customers while, shutting off, well, maybe not shutting off, but like slowing down their ICE production.
Yoda.
Omar, I agree that I think all automakers will have some some form of FSD, in their future vehicles. And for some reason, I think instead of Tesla, they might choose a platform such as NVIDIA's platform. I've posted kind of their suite in reply in case you need to reference it, and I think that's actually the wrong decision. But do you have a point of view on why choosing NVIDIA is actually a bad idea? They should actually license technology from Tesla instead. Could be the fleet, but I'm not too sure.
We can ask him when he gets back, but NVIDIA's solution is not as efficient as Tesla's solution today, right, Yoda? It's not as effective, it's not as efficient.
Correct. They offer, a sort of end-to-end solution from the data center, the AI models, the NIMs. Um, However, I think the missing piece is actually real-world data. They use Omniverse to simulate, driving miles. So, anyways, we can defer this question later, but I would love to have Omar's POV on this.
Okay. Steve Penn.
Hey, I have a question on Tesla insurance. No, the autonomy is supposed to save, it's a huge safety improvement factor. And when compare the Tesla insurance with any other insurance premiums, still the Tesla insurance is a bit high, or maybe very similar compared to other insurance premiums. And also, if you compare the FSD monthly premium, which is $99 per month, versus the Tesla insurance premiums, it's probably around more than the FSD premiums. I wonder, like, if there is a strategy or any case for new customers that are on the fence about buying Tesla. Is there a case of the premiums helping to make the decision for new buyers? In the long run, it's going to save a lot of money for people because it's more safer. I don't think
in
Tesla
the long run, I can definitely see Tesla doing something along those lines, lowering your insurance payments if you use FSD heavily, kind of thing. But that's not the case today. I don't think that's not FSD is not ready for that today. It's still supervised. It's not unsupervised, and also, I think in insurance rates, it really matters. The scale really matters, and Tesla's scale in insurance is not there just yet. So insurance, I think, is very important for a few years out, but it's not ready for that just yet. Danny.
I think the car makers will be extremely careful before licensing FSD because they essentially advertise Tesla for free. Well, Tesla gets paid for this advertising. And it will just make it more likely that someone really likes Tesla FSD and for them to go to the actual Tesla in the future, especially when Tesla drops prices with another car. So I think they'll bet, they will hope that Tesla FSD is not perfect for a few years. And then they'll jump on, say, NVIDIA or Mobileye, whoever likes a bit behind FSD.
Grant.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's going to license it until it demonstrates it's capable of L4 autonomy. That's just me. And I've just joined, so I'm curious. Two things. Why do we think that the stock price is up today? And when do we think we'll see results from 12.4 posted to FSD beta tracker?
We'll get to those. No topic change for now. X-Men Live, go ahead.
Just wanted to make this clear. So currently there is a small incentive. So while in FSD, you cannot lose points in your insurance model. So as long as you're driving in FSD, you start off with a 90 safety score that cannot go up or down it can go up, but it cannot go down as long as you're in FSD mode. There's no negative when you're in automatic pilot.
Okay, that's very good to know. Thank you very much. Peter?
I don't think if Tesla FSD getting better from this point, I honestly don't think any of these competitors have any choices at all. It's just like Mobile Eye, Waymo, it's a joke. I mean, you can't use that on your regular car. You had to, unless you put like 200,000 equipment. That doesn't logical. It's not practical. The practical is you buy roughly, because I just got my FSD, HW3 replaced my 2020 Model Y. For some reason, the FSD chips is no longer work, so I get a replacement for $2,600, including labor. So I guess their equipment, the chips, whatever, probably the very maximum $4,000, if not less. So for OEM,
Okay.
considering pay 4,000, yeah, okay.
All right, Grant, we have a question in YouTube live chat. Ken is asking, what do you think about Tesla going to Uranus or Moon?
Is that a plan?
Well, he's asking about it. What do you think about it? So you want to talk about the Tesla stock price, right? Why do you think it's going up?
I don't know. I mean, maybe the deliveries number is surprisingly good. Maybe 12.4.2 is really, really good. I don't know. Maybe it's just like, the pump, if you get Morgan State, like the call buying stuff. It's just tough to know.
Machine, what do you think?
About what?
The Tesla stock price going to Uranus.
Listen, I don't let inanimate objects into Uranus or my anus.
Okay. Where are you driving? Popeyes?
I'm driving to Pacifica to do some work in front of the ocean. So almost there.
Okay, well, while I have you on the board, let's talk about something important. Obviously, Elon tweeted about either 12.4.2. It was a post, a reply to I forget who, had 3 sentences in it. How did you interpret that tweet?
All right. Well, before we get there, I have to say one other thing first here, and that's to Alex. Well, you forcing me to speak Portuguese has like reinvigorated my brain, and now I can't get out my favorite, one of the greatest musicians of all time. All his songs are in my head, and a lot of them actually remind me of you, Alex. One of them is entitled "Apesar de você, amanhã vai ser outro dia," which means, let me interpret, despite you, tomorrow will be another day. There's another one, vai trabalhar, vagabundo. Go work, you vagabond. Also, Alex reminds me of you. And other ones. So yes, this great artist. Alex, do you know who I'm referring to?
No, and I will tell you that I haven't forced you to do anything. This is all in your head. Your very small head.
Well, yes, my head. I don't know if my head, the compute could fit inside Tesla's Hardware 3. But yes, the artist is the great Shiku Buake. This guy is amazing. But anyways, I'll take a break for a second.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Yoda. Omar, what did you think of, let's start with you. What did you think of Elon's comments around Hardware 3?
Did he make any comments about Hardware 3? You mean about the 5 times larger model?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I think it sounds super exciting. A model with, 5 times the parameters as the previous model should be much more powerful, much more advanced. Training something that is potentially bigger than what Hardware 3 can run, and really seeing what the power of Hardware 4 is, I think could be really exciting. Of course, the Hardware 3 model would continue to get better. They could quantize it down, have a smaller version as well. So I think Hardware 3 will continue to get better, but once they have this new data center in Texas, I expect them to be able to train a hardware for a specific model.
Machine.
I have a questionable signal. Can you hear me?
Yours is fine. Omar's a little sketchy.
All right. Well, that's good. We've all heard enough of Omar, and now we need to hear a real opinion, real analysis on this topic that no one else seemingly can provide. Your audience is so biased, all the tweets, everyone they're just totally in denial. And there's a reality here. There's two statements here. And by the way, this is not negative overall, right? This is a positive for the promise of robotaxis in general. It's just very bad for hardware 3. And there's two things going on in this statement. One is the key thing, which I explored correctly in my analysis of scaling laws, incorrectly by all your other machine learning experts in Twitter, which was they try to think that, oh, you're just going to increase everything and error rate's going to go down easily. Increase training, or just increase the amount of data, and you'll just get amazing benefits. And I'm like, well, hold on. These scaling laws are really saying and focused around increasing all those things in conjunction with each other is the best way to utilize your resources. Not necessarily that your on a log scale, your error rate can go down linearly with increasing data. That still there's asymptote behavior. And what we see here is that the speculation that Tesla could just take in more data and train it for longer was not enough to get some massive improvement in model performance. And Elon's saying that by the fact that this massive improvement, supposed massive improvement, is coming by the fact that they've increased the number of parameters by 5x. That is a massive change. And that is a key part of improving the reliability of these models. And so that's what I expected. The model parameter size is going to have to go up massively to get much better performance of these models. There's nothing surprising here if you actually digest all the information on neural net training. And so this is what I expected. Now, the question always became, exactly where are they on this inference compute scale to where as they need to keep increasing model parameters and size of the models to get the right reliability, like where does that fall on where hardware 3 is, hardware 4, hardware 5, etc.? Will any of those work? Will all of them work? It's kind of hard to calibrate because we didn't know how much of hardware 3 were they using, right? And previously, what people like Green the Only speculated or did some analysis when they're doing V11 was that it was kind of using a lot of the processing and sometimes going over the 2 nodes. But part of that is they're using CPU because you had C code, but we didn't know with V12 end to end how much it was using. And what we see with Elon's tweets is that they're going to extreme efforts here, probably with quantization, reducing, going from floating point to fixed point and more layers. That they're doing as much as they can to get this big model to fit on hardware 3, which is an amazing engineering effort. And it seems like they're successfully going to be able to do that. But it means they are at capacity for hardware 3. I don't know how anyone could look at what he said and not think, dang, they're running up on the limits of hardware 3. Now, will they be able to eke in bigger models on hardware 3? Yes, they will do more engineering effort to make things more efficient. But are they going to be able to do another 10x of model parameters in hardware 3? No, that's not practical. You're not practically doing a compression of 10x on hardware 3. And we still are at about a 30 to 50x needed improvement to get to robotaxi level. So those numbers, just big picture, means this is not happening on hardware 3.
Okay. Thank you, Machine. You've been right on this topic more than a lot of people. And I want to recognize that. It's very impressive. The amount of work and detailed work you do and not being able to sway one way or another with passionate arguments or emotions or tweets from, this and that person is really impressive. Alexander.
Machine, yes or no? Do you think it's time to abandon ship on hardware 3? Is there not going to be robotaxi on that hardware?
I think he just wants to leave on a high note, Alexander. So let's go to Grant.
Okay.
I was just going to say that this question was resolved back in 2016. I've been led to believe that hardware 2 has everything needed for full autonomy. Any suggestions to the contrary are insulting to our brave and fearless leader, Elon.
Omar, any thoughts on what Machine said or what Grant said?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to really take what they say seriously. I think Machine is kind of the boy who cried hardware 4. He's always saying, oh,
We lost Omar. Can you guys hear him? Yeah. And Machine is also having connection issues. They must be in the same car or something. Are you guys in the same car going somewhere? Grant?
Well, I mean, it would. I was obviously being sarcastic. It would be a continuation of what we've seen, which is the hardware isn't enough to make this a workable product. And more than anything, I think Elon just benefits from time, improvements in technology in the form of neural nets. Transformer models didn't exist when he was saying it was a year away, a decade ago. I mean, eventually it'll get there, but yeah, it's probably going to take more hardware. Maybe it'll take more technological advancements. But I do appreciate that this group will be excited and along for the full ride.
Okay, Alejandro.
Yes, so my question was with regard to what do you guys think Tesla is in the hook for this issue of hardware 3 approaching its possibly its limits, and what do you think Tesla is expected to legally provide? Like they would get, I don't know, demands or something if they cannot provide unsupervised on hardware 3. What do you think about that?
Machine.
First of all, I apologize. I have bad signal. I couldn't hear what Alexander, the great Swede, said, if that was a response to me. But in terms of this question, I believe the stipulation of what was written, not in the contracts, but in the purchase agreement, for people who bought before around March 2019, I believe it did kind of essentially agree to that you would give you robotaxi level supervised. But for people after that, which is the majority, they did not. So I don't believe anyone who bought after, let's say, April 2018 is going to be obligated to anything.
I mean, also a lot of those people who bought earlier cars, they've upgraded to newer cars. The cars have improved so much since 2018. A lot of people have upgraded already. They have an option to transfer their FSD for free to their new cars. So, Tesla's taking a lot of actions, mitigating actions to cover any sort of liability they might have. And, we have Ken in YouTube Live. If he wants to come up and request to speak and talk about this issue, share his views, he's welcome to do that. Danny.
It's been clear over the last couple of years that scale of data, like the larger the model, the smarter it is. And there's been some advances to make small models better, like Llama 8B. But still today, you need large models if you want to brute force your way to success. What are your thoughts on the fact that hardware 3 is 16 gigabytes and hardware 4 is only 8 gigabytes? And for speed, you kind of should be able to fit the models in the RAM.
Machine.
I don't know if that's the limiting factor. If the actual size in terms of memory, I'm not sure what the size of these models are, but maybe it sounds like they're confident that the actual memory allocation size is not the limiting factor, but maybe it's more compute tops and flops. And then that's
more of where they're getting limited on. So I'm going to assume the fact that they downsize the memory means they're quite confident that they've like over capacity design for it.
Yeah. And there's so many unknowns, Danny. I mean, it would have to be, we would be speculating to a very great degree to answer your question. And I don't like to do that, honestly. But also, you know, I think even machine would agree with you that the size of the model necessary for full self-driving will increase until we get there, but then it's likely to decrease after that. Machine, would you agree with that statement?
Yes. Motorcycle next to me here. What's going to happen is the models are going to get bigger. The best pouring model, the state of the art, has the best reliability. Basically, they're always going to push bigger models. They're always going to push everything as far as possible for what the compute allows. But ultimately, for a given defined reliability, yeah.
Okay, thank you. It sounds like you agree with me. Your connection is really bad. I mean, I think you get some background noise silencing you. Dioban? Dioban, you may unmute yourself and go ahead.
Hey guys, just getting back to the whole FSD for ICE cars. Is this like, how would it work? Because how would like an ICE car power the like the hardware inside the car in order for it to run? How would it be? It wouldn't be fair, I don't think.
Before we change topics, Yoda?
Machine, do you think Elon meant that one of the chips or both of the chips working together wouldn't be enough?
Yeah, it's really bad connection. Sorry. Expand live.
My question is on the version 3 computer, if in the future in the training process, if they don't have to continue running in shadow mode and are just strictly running in the most efficient manner, to me the compute 3 might have a lot more life in it than you think. Offsetting some of that shadow mode stuff to version 4 and some of the learnings that Tesla's looking for, they can just pull that from version 4 and have basically used the version 3 as a play mode only, and that might be able to really still increase their thing because they won't need shadow mode.
There you go. Yoda, I think that answers your question, right? All right, I see a thumbs up from Yoda. People in listen mode may not necessarily see the thumbs up or the reactions, and people who listen to it afterwards won't also see that unless if they're watching on YouTube. All right. Any other questions, comments? Please request to speak. Machine.
I don't know if this sounds any better.
Yeah, much better.
But I think people start getting stuck in the weeds here, and I really think you need to pull back and look at a big picture. And the big picture is, again, Tesla's doing great things here, but we are at maybe a reliability of something around 1,000 miles per critical disengagement. That's what this new software may be able to provide. That is still at least 50x away from robotaxi level. And to get to that, they had to increase the model parameter size 5x. What do you think it's going to take to get another 50x? They're going to have to increase the model parameter size significantly, an order of magnitude more than you were thinking about in terms of these nitty-gritty details about if they're using the other node or not, or, well, they can be more efficient and have better compression. Like, this stuff is minor details versus the massive need for more parameters to get to robotaxi level.
Omar.
Yeah, I think what Machine said was inaccurate. They didn't require a 5x parameter count increase to get to this level of reliability.
He's saying that their next generation model is going to have a larger parameter count.
Machine.
Yeah, I'm referring to 12.5. As soon as
We heard you're referring to 12.5. That's what all we heard. X-Men Live.
I don't think he's referring to 12.5. I think he's referring to sort of V13.
Wouldn't shadow
Oh,
mode?
that's okay. That's a big one because I thought he was referring to 12.5 too. But you're saying V13. All right. Machine.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I thought he was referring to 12.5 because people are asking him about why it's taking so long. And I thought that was part of that discussion, but maybe you're right. Maybe it's the next model, which we would assume will be a few orders, a few 2x or 3x better. So that 50x becomes like 20x. So I think my point still remains, but certainly if he's talking about much in the future model, better. So that 50x becomes like 20x. So I think my point still remains, but certainly if he's talking about much in the future models, then yeah, it does reduce the gap that I'm talking about.
X-Men Live.
Do you think shadow mode takes significantly less than 50% of the cycles in the background?
Again,
your connection is so bad. It's just horrible, like horrible. It's spotty. It's unreliable. We yeah, just don't talk. It's okay. We can do
Machine.
without any one person. It's okay.
Machine, are
We
you
do
calling
need good
from
quality connection.
Elon's? Are you calling from Elon's favorite planet,
So
Machine?
Omar, do you have a thought on that? Sorry, went out of order.
Danny.
I think the next gen AI version that Elon referred to is probably going to be used in the robotaxis with hardware 5, and that would probably be hardware 5 would probably be a big boost in specs to be able to brute force the success, which will likely be very possible. And then hardware 3 and 4 will take even longer to optimize.
Tezables. Daisy Tezables.
Yeah, so I have a question related to the 12.4.2, right? So how's the experience with the starting point and ending point with that version? So because like can we just from parking start the destination and it will start automatically, or we have to give the route?
Omar.
What was the question?
Yeah, first-time speakers are limited to asking questions, which you are, but your question should be in 10 words or fewer, and it should start with a question word. You don't need to come up and say, I have a question. Just ask the question.
Question for 12.4. So if it's a car is parked, so can we directly put to the destination and it will take you, or just you have to go on the like first back up and then give it start the FSD basically?
Well, you put in the destination, you turn FSD on, then it drives you there.
But it was not the case before, right? So like you have to give like proper in the street, then only start the FSD, right? So now from parking itself, we can encase FSD from 12.4.
Well, you can always start it from a parking spot, but before you were, it was kind of recommended to pull onto a street because it wasn't as good in parking lots. So even, 12.3.6, you can start it from a parking lot, but now it's getting really pretty good at navigating parking lots.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Alex, I see that you saw a BYD ad in Germany and then you typed it into your browser. What happened then?
It's the other Alex. It's not me. It's German Alex.
Oh, whoops. Oh, really?
Yeah, it's buy your own dildo. So apparently, like, there are ads playing in Germany that talk about BYD, the car. And if you just type byd.de, it goes to that page, which is like a site that's coming online soon, but to sell you dildos. So that's pretty funny. Probably is going to be a big lawsuit somewhere.
Oh, so that's what Machine's mom meant when she said she bought a BYD.
Exactly.
You know, I bet you can hear me now. I bet I sound real clear.
You do actually.
Cleared it up, Omar. Yeah, exactly. Now you're waiting for my response. Everything else, he's saying something useful about FSD. Block him out. Oh wait, we made fun of his mom. Let's hear what he's got to say.
You know, every now and then I see these like random replies from people I've never seen before about your mom. And it cracks me up every single time. It doesn't matter how sad I am or whatever, upset about something or how sleepy. Even at like 3 a.m. when I look at my phone and I see a joke about Machine's mom, it just cracks me up.
I'm getting attacked left and right now. It's every day. There's someone, random account, making fun of my mom. And, you know, this is all your fault. You and Omar. It's all you do all day. You don't care about Tesla stock. You care about my mom.
I mean, it's like it's kind of it's spread beyond this space as well. Like sometimes, you know, I read through conversations on other kind of like threads and stuff, and I'll see somebody make a joke about your mom. Like I'm not even in the thread. You're not even in the thread. You know. Anyway.
That's true. I'm missing out on ones even. There's even ones I don't know about.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Hey, let's talk tomorrow morning. We're going to get to production deliveries numbers. And I know you'll also subscribe to Troy's Patreon. His increases numbers a little bit. I think he already publicly announced it. And but the analyst consensus is a little higher. So what do you think? How are you positioned for tomorrow?
I mean, I'm relatively neutral on Tesla positioning wise, among with a whole other set of stocks. So for me, it's not a big deal. But you know, the more that the stock, so I think it'll be under what analysts think and more towards Troy. But I do think there's some data that points to that Troy might have underestimated a bit. Not significantly so. I mean, it's still going to be around 430, let's say. And that's still year over year lower. And there's no excuse about, you know, Houthis shooting at ships in the Suez Canal or fires at Giga Berlin to say, oh, that's why we couldn't sell as many cars, you know, these issues. There's no other reason. It's just supply and demand. And yes, it's up quarter over quarter, so that's a positive. But because there was so much inventory, you know, they still didn't draw down inventory. You know, one thing I was a bit wrong on is that they were going to produce less, much less, this quarter because they had to draw down inventory, and they've chosen to actually probably raise inventory even more. So I think that's interesting. I don't know what the stock market's going to think. We see it's up majorly today, but so is NEO and Rivian. So I don't even know if that's a Tesla specific thing. So I don't know what to think. You know, it's very highly valued in terms of, you know, we talk about it once in a while and you get annoyed in terms of its earnings, but there's no reason not to think it couldn't stay around this level. I still don't see a massive improvement coming in terms of the stock price to stay up higher anytime soon.
Omar?
What's the question about Rivian?
No, close. No, we're talking about Tesla's production delivery numbers for tomorrow. And I know you're not as focused on it as a lot of people are, but do you have a view on production delivery numbers? You know, this stuff has run up quite a bit, 50% in 2 months. What do you think is going to happen tomorrow?
Well, I mean, I think expectations are pretty grounded. Nobody's expecting a blow out of the water number, so that's a good situation to be in versus having high expectations and disappointing. But look, I mean, I think it'll be up sequentially. I think it'll be down year over year. I think they're good numbers, not great. I'd love to be seeing record numbers, but I think the outlook is looking good going into the second half of the year. It's going to be interesting to see what the effects of the financing offers and FSD transfer were this quarter. So as long as we get a number above 400,000, I'm happy. My number's around 420K. If they do that, good. They're doing their job. They're selling cars. Would I like them to sell more? Yes. But, you know, I think really if you're looking at this thing at a $600 billion valuation, a few weeks of car deliveries here or there, you know, they're delivering 40,000 cars a week, is not really here or there in the bigger picture.
Okay, in the meantime, the stock is also moving up as machine talks. It's now up 8% to $213 per share. Machine?
But that's what I'm saying. I just looked, and these spikes going on right now are also happening in Rivian, and I believe Neo a bit too. So that's just what is that about? Just EV investment, you know? So which is fine. People are getting bullish on EVs again, maybe.
Yeah, that is interesting. Do you want to say a few words about Rivian? You know, Omar has a put position, a very small put position. He also has shares on the long side on Rivian that he forgot from some time ago. Are you making a bet on it?
You know, I have a iron condor around Rivian, around like $11. So, you know, plus or minus 9 to 13 or something. So it's above that right now. So I think it's my position's flat, my trade's flat, but I expect some correction. I'm thinking about adding a net short, just a out of the money call spread against them right now because they've been pumped up. But you know, it can go really badly against me if they reported earnings that they've drastically reduced their negative gross margins, right? I mean, that would just absolutely pump the stock. So it's risky. It's actually might be more risky to short Rivian than Tesla.
Wait, can you explain that a little bit more? Why would it be more risky to short Rivian than Tesla at this point?
I just mean, you know, this depends on time frames, and what I mean is we see the long-term massive value potential, and a lot of that's based on FSD. And I don't think there is some short-term sudden thing that can happen that's going to pump Tesla.
Well, I mean,
up
you're
to
saying
$400
you're telling me
in a few
that
weeks.
you're confident that 12.5 is going to have this architectural change. It's going to lead to 5x to 10x improvements. And you're also, on the other hand, like you're telling me 99% of drives are going to be intervention free. And yet you're like, there's nothing in the short term that's going to cause a catalyst for Tesla. We also have 8.8 coming too.
Yeah, I know. I get. Yeah, it's a good question about how all those things align in my brain, and I think it comes down to, I still think institutional investors see that even if you have a 5x improvement, which is questionable if what it's actually going to be, because Musk adds a lot of caveats there about once known bugs are fixed, so they may not be fixed yet. That's going to give you a really great L2 assist, but still nowhere near robotaxis, and that institutional investors would not just suddenly pump the stock up double. I mean, that's a massive value add, right? Another 500 billion added to the market cap just on the fact that they think FSD is closer, while still being another 25x away in terms of needed reliability improvement. Like, I tend to think that would not be some instantaneous change relative. I'm not saying that couldn't happen, or the speed that couldn't happen isn't something somewhat sudden, but relative to Rivian, where I'm saying if Rivian reports on an earnings report a drastic reduction in negative gross margin, the stock could double in a week. And that's more concerning, just the time frame. It could happen so quickly, and that would be much quicker than anything that would happen to Tesla.
Omar, what do you think about what he said? I mean, dude,
Tesla is a company that's making money, and they're bringing really an incredibly transformative set of products to market. So they're in a pretty good position financially. Rivian is just burning cash like crazy. And what people are going to realize after the smoke clears over this Volkswagen deal is that $1 billion does nothing to solve their problem. It buys them a couple more months. So the biggest risk for Rivian right now is A, the production and deliveries, and B, the earnings a couple months. So production and deliveries, I expect to see deliveries fall sequentially again. So for the last 3 quarters, we've seen a sequential decline in deliveries. Okay. Investment capital cannot fix a problem where you're making these products and people don't want to buy them. Cybertruck's now coming down in price. You're seeing other EVs being dumped onto the market. You're seeing a higher for longer environment. It continues to be challenged. Hell, even Rivian has their R2 products, which are going to be half the price of the R1, essentially. R1 average selling prices are 90,000. So I think the production and deliveries and earnings are likely going to be a wake-up call that everything is not solved. There's still a massive amount of work to do on getting R1 profitable, on ramping R2, and that the company's going to have to spend even more money than they're spending right now to scale the business to where it needs to be with R2. They're in an incredibly precarious and risky position, and I would be shocked and impressed if they do not have to raise again before getting to profitability sustainably.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I didn't realize their deliveries were down sequentially for 3 quarters in a row. That's a hell of a statistic. And
if you get to gross margin neutral, but nobody's buying the cars, then that's not really much of a help.
Yeah, I don't know how they get to gross margin neutral with deliveries going down. And if you've seen the kind of the deals that Tesla's offering on the new inventory page for the Model X, $10,000 off listing price. And I understand, 5-seater, 7-seater distinction, but even if a family is kind of hung up on, I have to get 7-seater EV, there's also now the EV9 from Kia with even longer leg room on the third row and $30,000 cheaper than the R1S. So, and the EV9 is about to qualify for the $7,500 credit. The Model X qualifies for the $7,500 credit as long as it's less than $80,000, and the R1S does not. So, James.
Another thing I thought was strange with the Rivian R1 S and the the RTS or whatever it's called, the truck and the SUV, they refreshed them, but they didn't add the North American charging standard to either of them. So that was a huge deterrent for me buying one, because I have a Model Y, but it's full of car seats, and if we have another kid, we're going to need a bigger car. We want to have an EV. There's not a lot of options that can fit 3 car seats But I don't want to switch to a car that, doesn't have the North American charging standard. I don't want to have to deal. I had a car before my Tesla that had the regular, was it the J17, 197, whatever it's called, charger. And using the third-party chargers was a terrible experience. So if I can't use a Tesla charger to charge one of those Rivians, why would I buy one?
Yeah, well,
Yeah, who
you
wants to
can.
lug around an adapter knowing they're about to come out with an NECS version?
Right. Machine.
And also, they put the charger. Oh, sorry. I was going to
Yeah,
say
thank
they
you.
just.
John Lee.
Hey, Omar, I agree with everything you said about Rivian. I was just having a traumatic experience having been in Tesla stock for 10 years because it sounded exactly like all the Tesla Q comments about Tesla during the early years. And it's kind of interesting, what we did weather to get to where we are.
Machine.
I just added to my Rivian short position.
I know Alex is adamant that Rivian should have a fair shot at survival. That and also Sawyer believes that, or Sawyer says he wants Rivian to succeed, and we all should want that. Alex, would you like to say a few words to that end?
Yeah, I don't get this whole failing, wishing people, a company to fail. Like this is not Nicola and fraud. This is actual, a company trying to make it out there that have a product that people love. So I don't know. I don't get it. It's like, I can understand, like, if you're saying I want them to succeed, but looking at their business, I think they're making a mistake. I can appreciate that. And these are the conversations I want to have. Or they're doing something great, doesn't have to be a mistake. But to actually wish a company to fail just outright, like, why? It's the EV transition. It would mean that Tesla is failing in its mission to some extent. That's how I see it.
Yeah. Well, just to clarify though, I don't think anyone ever has said Rivian, they wish Rivian to fail, right? I don't think anyone said that. Machine.
I want to see. I think their cars look great, and really useful. When it looks great here in the Bay Area. Just a reaction to stock over the last few weeks, and that's my position. I'm not rooting to fail.
Is he breaking up for you guys too? Okay, James.
If you want him to sound clear, start every question with like his mom, and then he's going to sound like super clear. Just watch.
I just want to say I don't want Rivian to fail. I want Rivian to succeed, and I just wish that they made some better choices with how they're running the business.
Okay. All right. I just want to clarify, every single person in this space, I have not heard of anybody who thinks they want Rivian to fail. Everyone wants Rivian to succeed, and we all should.
Only for people who short.
No, I don't think even the people who are short I think like Omar would rather see an improvement. I mean, Omar has what, a couple of productions? It's nothing. He would rather see another EV company succeed, right, Omar? Can you guys hear Omar? Okay, John Lee.
Yeah, I'd just like to clarify my comment about the Tesla Q commenting on Tesla, 10 years ago. They, for all intents and purposes, weren't wrong. Tesla did come through, hell and high water to get here. And that's what Rivian is going through now. I wish for them to succeed. I don't know if it's probable.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Please request to speak. Alex, what do you think about Elon following Travis. Do you think that has any meaning for robotaxis?
I don't know. I think we might be reading too much into that, but maybe, it's like for conversation's sake, yeah, it would make sense. But, I don't think the follow is necessary. Or maybe it's Elon, sometimes Elon likes to give little hints like Easter eggs. So to spur out the conversation, maybe it's happening, maybe it's not. I don't have like a set opinion on that. He's too he's impenetrable, basically. These moves, we don't know why he does them.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't really like too much reading into the tea leaves, although I get so many questions when something like that happens. I mean, somebody demanded I do emergency space based on that tweet.
Yeah, and he also followed like Taylor Swift and then unfollowed her. So what does that mean?
I don't know. Licensing deal. Taylor Swift exclusive to Teslas. Dennis.
Hey guys, I wanted to ask you regarding the Cybertruck deliveries. Over the weekend, I saw Sawyer said like the orders were from February 2023 reservations. Would that mean that most people have canceled their reservations? Because up to then, we've for sure had at least more than 1 million.
Yeah, there were more than 2 million reservations, more than 1 million people reserving a Cybertruck. But that was before Tesla increased or it started producing the Foundation series for 100K plus. So obviously, most people will want to wait for the $80,000 version. We don't really know what the demand level for the $80,000 version is going to be, the non-Foundation Cybertruck. We'll see. I mean, you can't speculate on it one way or another. I think personally it will be high, but only time will tell. Yoda.
Yeah, just on the Elon following Uber. What I'm thinking is, Elon doesn't follow anyone, and that may come out of a conversation they had over the phone or in-person meeting where they, discuss some business. And I think one of the um, scenarios is that, Uber's looking at FSD's progression and is having some thoughts about the possibility of asking Tesla for native integration of its robotaxi fleet with the Uber app. If and when, we don't know, but to basically have robotaxi vehicles available for Uber customers. And so then Uber is able to provide Tesla access to a large pool of riders in whatever restricted area that it launches in, while Tesla can offer customers, Uber customers, this driverless option to trial.
Grant.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible, but I think in general, this group spends too much time talking about things that are just way off into the future. I just don't know that, Uber's reaching out frantically wanting to talk to Tesla when there is not a robo-taxi that exists yet. Like they can easily do that once a prototype actually works in a small geographic area and Tesla's getting ready to scale production 3 years from now or whenever that is. There's just so much speculation in this group about stuff that's like 5 years away. That's my comment.
Yoda, would you like to respond to that?
Well, I think with any strategic partnerships, it happens before it hits the press. It takes planning so the products can integrate. So I don't agree that if there's a strategic partnership between Uber and Tesla, that it should wait till the technology is actually available publicly.
Well, I mean, we should also note, so there's a question that applies. Who is Travis? Travis Kalanick is the founder of Uber, but he's no longer with the company. So I don't know if Elon following Travis means anything to the end of, strategic partnerships with Uber. Omar, what do you, he just dropped. James. Omar's having connection issues today.
I was gonna say the same thing. He's not with Uber anymore since 2018 or 19, I think. So is there possibly like some kind of strategic, um, obviously he has a lot of experience with Uber, and so maybe that's experience he can bring to Tesla for their robotaxi, since he has the exact kind of experience for the kind of app that Tesla might be unveiling for their own robotaxi service. Maybe Travis is consulting or going to join the company in some fashion to help them with that, since he's not part of Uber anymore.
Okay. So I pinned at the top of our screen the post. It says, "Why did Elon follow Uber founder Travis?" So I'm going to use these question posts to generate discussion. I would like people to try to reply to them. And then I read through the replies to every question that I pose. And based on the discussions going on in the replies, I'm going to bring up those questions or the people onto the speaker boards and try to kind of gear the conversation towards subjects where people disagree, that they find interesting, they want to learn more about. And that's how I'm going to kind of generate questions into this discussion, Tesla Live. And also, it helps spread the word and generate ad revenue, which supports this space. So I encourage people to like, repost, and reply to those questions in the future. Omar, what do you think about Elon following Uber founder Travis? Do you think it means anything?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, we just heard yeah. Your connection is bad, so I'm going to move on to Alexander.
Yeah, James said pretty much what I was thinking. So, yeah.
Okay, Grant.
Yeah, I don't think it means anything. I think this is a waste of time.
You're a waste of time. Simon, welcome.
Thanks, man. I know we're sort of moving on past that Rivian debate, but I just wanted to share my thoughts on from an investment standpoint. I just took delivery of a Rivian R1S, which I ordered 4 years ago, and I have to say it's an amazing vehicle. Wish it had full self-driving. I think eventually it'll be inevitable that they will license it. I guess the autopilot on the highway is good. But what I thought was interesting was I talked to one of the sales reps or somebody helping make delivery, and it was a super geek that they sent up from their head office, and he's been with the company for a couple of years, and so I got along with him quite well, and he's, him and I just geeked out on the vehicle together for about half hour, an hour, and he's convinced that they're going to get to profitability. I'm not so sure. So the reason, and this is actually important for those who are either invested or shorting the stock, that I think that a lot of these deliveries, or most of them that are happening now, and I asked him, I said, in Montreal, you just started making deliveries. And are any of these people, sorry, I got a baby in the background, are any of these people paying full price for the Rivian? And he said, no, everybody has these. I took the delivery because I got a 30% discount on it. Here in Canada, it cost me.
How did you get that?
Because I was one of the early reservation holders. I put an order in sort of 4 years ago.
So how much did it cost you? Like all in, how much did it cost you, the R1S?
So 90,000 Canadian.
Okay, gotcha. So something like $60,000?
Yeah, exactly. About 60,000 US.
Okay.
And for that price, it's ridiculous, the value you get.
Yeah.
And it's a really cool vehicle. But here's my complaint about it from an investment standpoint, and this is why I've never invested in the company, is that they've way over-engineered this thing. This is an amazing product. They're selling a $250,000 vehicle for $150,000. And I don't think they can get this thing down to cost. I mean, they put they put flashlights in the doors and speakers all over, and it's just way over-engineered. It's a beautiful, beautiful product, and I think that all Rivian owners are benefiting from that because they're getting tremendous value. And when they came out with the R2,
thank you. Yoda, what do you think about what Simon is saying, that he loves his R1S, although he got it at 30% discount on $60,000? Also, do you think there's an overlap between the Cybertruck and R1T and R1S? Some people claim, including RJ Spence, claims that the two Venn diagrams don't have much overlap.
I don't think there's much overlap. The outdoor kind of recreational type of SUV and a hardcore working truck. The design is, as different as it could be. I think the Rivian design form factor is a great bridge from the traditional kind of truck form factor. I think, yeah, Rivian has really great products, whether they're over-engineered or not. I think that's probably they have, but it's subjective. I think whatever they're doing, they need to chase after not more features, but how can they delete processes in the manufacturing factory, delete parts so that they can reach $1 of free cash flow as soon as they can. Everything else is nice to have.
Okay, very good. Very good. All right, man, we have a lot of people on YouTube Live today. Probably a record amount, actually. That's interesting. I wonder what's going on. People want to know about this rise in stock price, and I get that, but we try to focus on longer term topics in this space, try to build that longer term knowledge of the company. Tomorrow morning, we're going to get the production deliveries numbers. The stock has run up quite a bit, so it may pull back a little bit, who knows? But my understanding, based on the replies I'm seeing to the tweet side post, is that people are generally sticking with their current positions. My followers tend to be longer term investors. They don't really take much positions around these earnings calls or production delivery reports, etc. So we'll be here tomorrow to analyze the numbers, talk about the numbers, talk about other things, and maybe when Omar and Machine have better connections, we can dig into a little bit more about Uber founder Travis, being followed by Elon, whether there's any meaning to it, anything of that sort. 880 is coming up in 5 weeks, Yoda. In 5 weeks, August 8th, your favorite day of the year, is coming up. So maybe we can talk some more about that. Again, thank you very much to all of my patrons. Without my patrons, there's no way this space would be free and open for everybody. And if you can't sign up for Patreon, I understand it's not for everyone. I get that. Not everyone can swing it. But if you could please repost, and reply to the questions I posed, that increase ad revenue share, which supports this space. Thank you very much, everyone. We'll be back tomorrow, the same time. And I will talk to you guys next time. Take care.